Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Effed Up News of the Week. Effed Up News is a stream I do on Sundays at 5 p.m. where we talk about some of the more effed up news of the week. I like to keep my naming convention simple and straightforward and very direct so that everyone can understand what we're talking about. We've got some good stories coming up today. We are going to start off with the Twitter war between one Abigail Disney and one Chris Rufo. This was one of the most fiery, pissed off threads that I've ever seen Chris Rufo do. It was epic. I enjoyed every second of it. We're going to be talking about that. We're also going to talk about when mean tweets land you in jail. We're going to talk about who's really right between Will Smith and Chris Rock, because of course we can't stop talking about Will Smith and Chris Rock, and there seems to be some mixed opinions, but does it really matter? Because what we really should be talking about is inherited racial trauma. Of course! Then we're going to talk about the CDC warning that, oh my God, what I've been saying for the past 2 years is that there is about to be a major mental health crisis in this country that we are woefully unprepared for. We're going to look at how this Bay Area school is going to answer the mental health crisis by reinstating mask mandates. We've got a thread from Wocal Distance. We've got LGBTQ educators leaving the profession. We've got gender being rethought in the service industry. And to round it all out today, we have a bartender quitting in the most epic possible fashion. Guys, welcome to Effed Up News of the Week. I go live at 5 on this channel every day of the week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And this is the type of stuff we do. If you appreciate the work I'm doing, oh my God, I didn't even get this ready. Oh, shoot. Hang on. See, guys, I've been working on a super secret project. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it in a second, but I didn't have this here screen up. There we go. I have too many browsers open on my desktop. There it is. If you enjoy the work I'm doing, and I promise I get it together every once in a while, I hope you'll consider becoming a member of my Locals community. Locals is the place on the internet that keeps me sane. It is the only place on the internet with reasonable people where you can have real conversations. We have got some awesome things coming up in my Locals, like this book club that we're doing for Conversations with God. Now, fun fact, Conversations with God was the first ever book club that I ran in my Locals. But my Locals has changed a lot since then, and I got canceled on the internet for quoting this book. And so I thought I would bring it back for a special book club. Now, I currently have it scheduled for April 23rd, but I just want to give everyone a heads up that because of a circumstance that I'm going to talk about in a second, I think I might push it back like a week. So I think we're going to end up doing book club on April 30th. I'm going to talk about why in a second, but I just want everyone in my Locals to know that we are reading the book Conversations with God. Book 1, there are 4 of them. Get the first one. And we are going to have a discussion about it, I think, on April 30th. I just haven't updated the graphic yet. We do other stuff in my Locals, like 2 community Zoom calls every single week where you get to come on a private community Zoom with me, and more importantly, with the amazing members that I have in Locals. We talk about everything. It is unrecorded. It is our own little version of a safe space. We disagree sometimes, but we always work it out and we always leave as friends. So the community Zoom calls are on Monday at 7 p.m. and Wednesday at noon. We've got Bitchcraft on the second Saturday of every month, which is a open Zoom where we craft and we bitch. And we've got lots of stuff going on in our supporter only Discord as well. We just started a writer. Well, I shouldn't say we. The members of my Locals community, and a special shout out and thank you to Sin, Lisa K, and Justin for starting a writers group in Locals. Yes, so Bitchcraft not on Sunday, Sin, but Bitchcraft is going to be this coming Saturday. So yes, Bitchcraft will be on Saturday. So great time to join my Locals. You're going to get access to lots of exclusive perks. You can become a member for $5 a month. You can also join for $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can also support my work by making a one-time donation. And guys, I really, my birthday is in 9 days. 9 days until I turn a number that I'm not going to say on the internet. I'm going to turn 25, That's the number we're gonna go with. I am trying, or maybe I should be a little bit more realistic. We can say 29, right? We can say 29. I'm gonna have what, my 12th, 29th birthday? But anyway, if you would like to celebrate my birthday and give me the best possible birthday present I could possibly get, I would love to get 100 new supporters in my locals by my birthday. It would really help me out, guys. Listen, inflation I've actually gotten a lot of messages from people lately that are canceling their locals memberships, and in every single one of them they say, "Carlin, I love your content. I love supporting what you're doing, but inflation is effing killing me." And I get it, guys. I really, really, really get it. But the reality is that I need my local supporters to be able to keep doing this stuff every single day. You guys make it possible. I literally would not be able to do it without you. So if you do have the means and you are so inclined and you want to take advantage of some special perks, now would be a great time to join. And you're going to give me the best birthday present possible. Another thing you can do is pre-order my upcoming book. Now, this is the reason that book club might get pushed a week, because my book was originally supposed to come out on April 26th, but I just found out from the publisher that due to supply chain issues with the printer, it will now not be coming out until May 10th. I am sorry. This is not my fault. This is not ideal. It is the printer and the supply chain, and basically it's Joe Biden's fault. It is Joe Biden's fault that my book has been delayed for 2 weeks. It is now coming out on May 10th. We have to just assume that everything happens for a reason. Everything happens in its own best time. I'm not actually that worried about that, but that is part of one of the reasons that book club, I think, is going to get moved back a week, because after Conversations with God book club, we're going to have Actively Unwoke book club. It's the ultimate guide for fighting back against woke insanity in your life. If you would like to pre-order the book, it is in the description, or you can head over to activelyounwoke.com. You can pre-order hardcover, audiobook, or Kindle. And yes, those autographed copies are coming. Fish Addict 2 says, I don't get YouTube notifications for Carlin. That's because YouTube blows, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, maybe one of the things you can do is unsubscribe, but resubscribe immediately. Resubscribe immediately. Turn on those notifications. Maybe it'll just rejigger it, reset it. That could really help out. And of course, please remember to mount that like button as well. Now, let's dig into it. Let's start with this Twitter thread. So, Abigail Disney, who is a very, very, very wealthy heiress to the Disney fortune, Abigail's having some feelings. She's having some feelings about Chris Rufo waging war against the woke Disney empire. And she did a whole thread about it on Twitter. Let's make it nice and big so everyone can see it on the video. Like all radical ideologues, the right wing has finally run amok and is coming to devour the hand that feeds it. Business. For my part, I am delighted. It is the business world that has been, either by act or omission, feeding the opportunist right wing to distract us with culture war nonsense while they rifle through the till and empty everyone's pockets. This anti-woke right-wing nonsense is unsupported by the large majority of Americans. Well, that's provably not true, Abigail. That's provably not true. In fact, we could just look at the Glenn Youngkin election in Virginia to know that that's not true. Now, sadly, I do think that the Republicans are not going to lean into the anti-woke stuff as hard as they could, because they're going to focus on social issues like abortion and gay marriage and banning porn, things that no one actually supports. But Abigail is wrong, and no matter what the Republicans or the GOP does, Abigail Disney is still wrong. In fact, most Americans are offended by it and just wish it would go away. No, Abigail, that's the ironclad law of woke projection right there. Most Americans are far more offended by your woke bullshit than they are by any of the anti-CRT stuff. You need two things to rule with a minority. First, you need to be constantly looking for fresh meat to throw to the minions to keep them all riled up all the time. That works until the herd thins. Remember Scar in The Lion King? Okay, breaking news. The Lion King is a work of fiction. It's not real. Abigail, The Lion King was not real life. I don't know why we're using it as an example, but it was not actually real life. No, Nat D. Abigail can't think she's a Disney princess because Disney has gotten rid of princesses. There are no more princesses at Disney. There are no more princes at Disney, except if you're in the merchandise store. And then I'm pretty sure they still sell t shirts in both boys and girls. But they have stopped saying, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. There are no more princes and princes at Disney. That would just be too, it would be too anti woke if they had genders. Come on. So now they've come for American business. It was really only a matter of time. The second thing you need to rule with a minority is money. Lots of it. You need very deep pockets to fund you, yes. And if they don't, you need them to sit quietly along the sidelines, out of your way. Until now, business has been content to do just that, or they compartmentalized like sociopaths when they funded folks like Dennis Baxley, who wrote the hateful Don't Say Gay bill because, as the CEO claimed, he had no way of knowing he might vote for legislation like that. Ha! Or else they have chosen silence. Their silence brought us Donald Trump. Apparently, the racism and xenophobia and misogyny weren't deal breakers. Their silence, or at least willingness to compartmentalize when it came to politicians who were willing to fight for their outrageous and multi decade campaign to stack the deck against the American people, brought us this whole raft of Trump wannabes now casting about for new and more insidious ways to tear the country apart. So now that the right wing and the business agenda might actually be showing signs of parting ways, perhaps we might see the powerful lobby of the various industries wondering which party was truly interested in supporting their interests. Perhaps we will see lobbies lose faith in the devil's partnership they until now have relied so heavily upon to look after their subsidiaries, their tax breaks, their flouting of laws and regulations. Perhaps the right wing has finally bitten the hand that has been feeding its superfoods these last few decades. This is the monster of corporate America's creation. Until now, they managed to dodge the worst of it by feigning neutrality, even when decent human beings were being actively harmed by right wing activism. The only thing that will work for business now, if they want to engage to emerge in one piece, is to stand tall for authenticity, generosity, joy, and decency. Abigail was having so many feelings, wasn't she? These things are kryptonite for the right wing agenda. So the cure isn't that hard. And it also just happens to be the heart and soul of the Disney brand. Disney has everything it needs to fight this threat. If only it will have the courage to weather the slings and arrows and threats and name calling. If only leadership will check in with first principles. If only they will show us that as a company that trades on the American right now, when it matters most of all, they will stand for those values with every fiber of their being. Yeah, guys like Rufo can try. But Disney is so much bigger, means so much more to the American people than that little punk could ever hope to mean. Woo! Abigail is getting some fire. Abigail is getting fiery in Aries time today, isn't she? Well, Chris Rufo, who is a taker of no shit, immediately responded. And I just like, I listen, I appreciate Chris Rufo for so many reasons. He's like the nicest guy in the world. He's always super responsive. He's always there like to help out when you need it. He always answers his DMs. I never have to pester him for anything. When I DM him about the hours, gets right back to me, unlike so many other people. It's amazing. But one of the reasons I actually have a great deal of respect for Chris Rufo is he is so fucking disciplined about his Twitter. Like, I use my Twitter like a toy. Rufo actually uses it to get results. And in order to do that, you have to be incredibly disciplined. You can't get involved in Twitter battles and petty spats like I do. Listen, I know I do. It is just the way it is. Because I'm not trying to do what Chris Rufo's trying to do. And I thank God he's stepped up to do that every single day. But he's always so disciplined with how he uses his Twitter and using it strategically. And it's so rare to actually see him go off like this that I just had like a great deal of appreciation for it. So Rufo responds, laughing my ass off, the Disney heiress who inherited $100 million and cosplays as a class traitor is coming after me now. The most privileged people on the planet pretend to be avatars of the oppressed when they are absolutely pathetic. I met a lot of these people when I was an undergraduate at Georgetown. They are the most entitled, narcissistic, status obsessed people imaginable. They adopt identities and moral causes to project their problems onto the world and solve them with their inherited wealth. Chris Rufo is 100% right about that, by the way, guys. Listen, I worked at Harvard, I worked at Dartmouth. I almost went to Dartmouth to get my master's degrees. I've done work with Cornell. I've actually done consulting work with people at Harvard. Like, people at the Ivy Leagues are just some of the worst possible. Not everyone. I don't want to like rag on everyone that like, because I'm sure there are probably people connected or like maybe went to an Ivy or something like that that are watching. And if you're a good person, I don't mean you, but every bit of my experience with the Ivy Leagues is that it is the most stuck up, pretentious, white saviory place in the world. And that's to include Dartmouth, which is one of the most conservative of all of the Ivy League institutions. I just couldn't stand it. I could not stand the energy. I could not stand the vibe. And these are institutions that people like kill to send their kids to, not necessarily because the education is superior, but because of the networking. That's all they really care about is the networking, the networking, the networking to go to that next step to get where they want to go so that they can have status and prestige and that McKinsey job that they all want. It is mind-numbingly inauthentic and just horrible, 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 horrible places. Anywho, but deep down, Abigail knows that she doesn't deserve it, couldn't survive without it, and isn't morally strong enough to give it away. And so she builds an image as a class traitor who wants to outlaw private jets and tries to evade the gnawing sense that she is a fraud. The best way to understand people like Abigail Disney is that for them, playing progressive politics is a very expensive form of therapy. She's used grandpa's money to disrupt inequality and make peace in Africa. But it's all pseudo altruism and self serving performance. I welcome the scorn of people like Abigail Disney. I know who I am. I know the privileges that I've inherited, and I know that I could survive on my own initiative and raise my children without the vast psychological complexes of people like her. P.S. I hope you read through the whole thread, Abigail, and have a long talk with your therapist about it. Perhaps I could help you with a personal breakthrough. You might thank me later, Rufo. Slow clap for Chris Rufo. I want a slow clap in the chat for Chris Rufo right now. Mount that like button if you enjoyed Rufo completely effing eviscerating Abigail Disney. I have never seen him tweet a thread like this, and I enjoyed every last moment of it. It's so juicy. It's so subversive. It's so. Chris Rufo just gave two giant middle fingers to Abigail Disney. And you know what he did? He did it with a smile on his face the entire time. If you are going to insult someone, you do it like Chris Rufo does. You enjoy every last glorious, glorious minute of it. Oh my God. Drink that in. That was incredible. But sometimes being spicy on Twitter can get you into a little bit of trouble, especially in the UK. Especially in the UK, got to be a little careful about that. Now, I don't know why this website has 86,000 ads on it. Shout out to Sin for bringing this story up and posting it in my local. Sin, I wish you would use websites that don't have 86,000 ads on them. We're going to have to get you some new websites. But I wanted to talk about this story nonetheless. The UK has got some weird hate crimes laws. The UK I know people in the UK who should be really nervous about the things I have in my DMs, I'm just saying. But the UK does crazy things like this. UK man sentenced to 150 hours of community service for offensive tweet. I wonder how the UK feels about its citizens harassing people on Twitter for no good reason. I'm not asking that for any reason at all. That's obviously never happened to me. Anywho, let me make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. Oh God, now the only thing I can see is ads. Okay, here we go. A Twitter user in the UK has been sentenced to 150 hours of unpaid community service for posting a grossly offensive tweet about Captain Sir Tom Moore, a British Army officer who raised money for the National Health Service during the COVID-19 pandemic. Joseph Kelly, 36 of Glasgow, had posted on Twitter that the only good Brit soldier is a deed one. Burn, odd fella, burn. In February last year, reports the National. He was found guilty of sending the message. That's all he wrote? Oh, yo, I could definitely get someone in the UK arrested. That's literally all he wrote. I have worse mentions on my Twitter from someone in the UK from yesterday. I'm just saying, Kieran. I'm just saying, you might want to be a little careful about what you tweet when your country is doing shit like this. He was found guilty of sending the message following a trial at Lennox Sheriff Court in January this year and returned to the court for sentencing on Wednesday. Sheriff Adrian Cottam sentenced him to a community payback order comprising 18 months of supervision and 150 hours of unpaid work. Can we just all, for a moment, like just for those of us in the States, and I know that most of you are in the States, can we just all for a moment just really value that we do have the First Amendment in this country, not in the UK? And we should just appreciate the privilege that we can tweet whatever the fuck we want. And we can insult people. And we can wish death on people, though not immediate and not in a way that is incendiary, and we aren't going to land in jail. Can we all just be respectful that we're allowed to send as many mean fucking tweets as we want and we can never be arrested for any stupid nonsense censorship crap? Thank God we're in America. Thank God. My view is, having heard the evidence, that this was grossly offensive. The deterrence is really to show people that despite the steps you took to try and recall matters, as soon as you press the blue button, that's it. The case has brought the attention to new UK legislation that allows social media users to be protected for sending, or excuse me, to be prosecuted. Hang on, I'm going to read that again because, again, I know people in the UK who could benefit from hearing this. The case has brought attention to the new UK legislation that allows social media users to be prosecuted for sending grossly offensive messages. Moore became a national figure in the UK after he walked 100 laps of his garden before his 100th birthday, raising more than £32 million for NHS, and was knighted by the Queen in recognition of his efforts. The day after his death, Kelly had posted the offensive tweet, which he deleted. He deleted the tweet and he still got sentenced to community service? Wow. The charge under the Communications Act said that Kelly made a post to the public using social media that was grossly offensive or of an indecent, obscene, or menacing nature, and that it did utter offensive remarks about Captain Sir Tom Moore, now deceased. Thank God, thank God, thank God I live in America every single day. But, you know, Twitter might not always be the best judge of things, to be honest. Like we always need to remember that Twitter is not real life. Only 2% of the population are actively engaged on Twitter. Twitter is not real life. When you leave the internet and you go out into the real world and you talk to real people, you find out very quickly they have no fucking idea what's going on Twitter. They don't even look at Twitter. They don't like Twitter because Twitter is a hellscape cesspool of a website. And yet for some reason, people still use it to try to assess public sentiment. I've never actually understood this. Like if you're doing like a poll or something on Twitter, you're looking at trends on Twitter, man, that's not going to be accurate about what the public thinks at all. So I was a little annoyed to see this article in The Hill. Twitter data indicates most of the country backs Chris Rock after Oscar spat with Will Smith. Now, I wasn't annoyed at the outcome. I mean, to be really honest with you, Chris Rock was the victim in this entire situation. Chris Rock did nothing wrong. What I was mad about was that they were using Twitter in order to assess this situation. Most of America is taking Chris Rock's side after the comedian was slapped by Will Smith at the Oscars, but several states in the middle of the country have the Men in Black's stars back. Now, they include New Hampshire in this, which I don't agree with at all, but whatever. A map released on Tuesday by the sports gambling company betonline.ag, based on geotagged Twitter data, shows 41 states support Rock in the very public drama, while 9 states are firmly in Smith's camp. The online betting firm tracked more than 200,000 tweets that included hashtags such as Team Chris or Team Will. Well, Twitter may not be the best way to assess things because the New York Post disagrees. The New York Post says most Americans blame Chris Rock over the viral Will Smith slap. Which team are you on? I'm going to do a poll. This is only on YouTube. Sorry. Are you Team Will or Team Chris? I'm putting this poll into the chat. Team Will, Team Chris. And we're going to see where you guys net out on this. Sorry to everyone watching on Odyssey or Rockfin or Rumble or even Gitter, because I'm live streaming on Gitter now, which is really great. But if you want to do the poll, you're going to have to come to YouTube. I'm sorry. It's just the way it works. I don't make the rules. Well, I kind of do make the rules, but that's just the way the tool is set up. Most Americans think Chris Rock had it coming. More than half of those surveyed in a new poll said the comedian was wrong when he joked about Jada Pinkett Smith's shaved head at the Oscars, and it was not the fault of actor Will Smith for smacking him on camera. It is polls like this that is going to save Will Smith's Oscar. Will Smith had to resign from the Academy today, or not today, the other day, in shame. They could still take his Oscar away, but I'm going to bet that polls like this are not going to allow that to happen because, the Oscars doesn't want the backlash. It's all about publicity. That's all it is. The Blue Rose research poll found that 52.3% of people blamed Rock for the incident, compared to 47.7% who said Smith was a little out of line. The poll quizzed 2,100 people online about who was more in the wrong. There's Will Smith with Jada and the Oscar. There's the slap heard around the way. There's Chris Rock handling like a pro. He did a good job. But really, none of these polls really matter, because what we really should be worried about is inherited racial trauma. You knew there was going to be a story like this. You knew it was going to happen. Gotta make everything woke. It's the way it goes. Will Smith's slap after Chris Rock's joke dominated the Oscars. But how does inherited racial trauma fit into the story? As the world still processes the sting of the Will Smith slap, a curious explanation has emerged that this was about race. That a black man striking another black man who had made an offensive joke about a black woman cannot be separated from a country where race and racism runs deep. In this telling, the actor was primed for this moment of madness, that Smith was not just responding to an offensive joke about his wife, but acting out generations of racially informed trauma. Yes, Will Smith, in slapping the hell out of Chris Rock at the Academy Awards, was reliving the trauma of the ancestors. You know how when we do anti-racist math, that math teachers are not allowed to correct students and they have to assume that students are using math of the ancestors? And it's just a different culture of math, which doesn't make any sense at all. But that is legitimately in the anti-racist math teacher training textbooks. Will Smith cannot be blamed for slapping the shit out of Chris Rock because he is just implementing the racially informed trauma of his ancestors. It is really not his fault at all. Well before the Academy Awards, Smith had written and spoken about his own childhood experience of violence, seeing his father beat his mother. There are suggestions Chris Rock's offensive joke about Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, triggered childhood trauma and feelings of helplessness, and he hit out. But this is more than childhood trauma, according to some. This is intergenerational. Violence is unacceptable anywhere, anytime. Those who believe that violence begets violence overlook the lesson of Martin Luther King Jr., who led the civil rights movement in the United States, inspired by the idea of nonviolence. In the face of violence, Dr. King urged his followers to turn the other cheek. Dr. King believed that a cycle of violence can be broken. I just want to thank Catherine Scully for being a member of the channel for 15 months. Catherine chatted in. Chris got fresh prints. Now Will is going to move in with Auntie and Uncle in Bel Air. Catherine, thank you for being a member of the channel. I really appreciate the support. Was Will Smith striking out against a history of racism? But the Academy Award slap has reignited a vigorous conversation, particularly amongst Black Americans and here in Australia too, amongst Indigenous people, that Smith was striking out against a history of racism and brutalization of Black people, particularly women. I'm sure that that is absolutely what was going on. Will Smith was just defending the ancestors, man. That must be it. That Rock is also black only complicates the matter. The comedian, it is said, has internalized racism that makes it okay to mock the appearance of Black women. I'm just going to read that one again. That Rock is also black only complicates the matter. The comedian, it is said, has internalized racism that makes it okay to mock the appearance of Black women. They're literally saying that Chris Rock told the joke about Will Smith's wife because Chris Rock is himself a racist. He is a self-hating Black man, and the only way that he can deal with his own self-hatred is to insult the appearance of Black women. In this telling, history puts Rock and Smith on that stage. Clearly, Rock and Smith are fabulously wealthy, privileged, and famous Black people, but that doesn't mean they cannot also be scarred by racism. The argument goes that both men are shaped by trauma, that they are tied to history. History lives in the oppressed, and it has a deadly hold. Can trauma be genetically inherited? Science has a role here. Studies into the offspring of prisoners of war or those who have lived through famine or imprisonment, the colonized and enslaved, claim to reveal a higher likelihood of fatal disease like cancer or greater prevalence of mental illness. Simply, history kills. According to this theory, ancestral trauma lives in us still. It is passed on in mother's milk. It becomes written in our genes. There is a scientific name for it: transgenerational epigenetic inheritance. Studies in rats appear to support the idea, but similar studies in humans are too premature to be convincing. So essentially, guys, we're not going to read this whole article. I just want you to know that it really wasn't Will Smith's fault that he slapped the shit out of Chris Rock at the Oscars. It doesn't matter. Not his fault. He was merely enacting the trauma of the ancestors. Because everything has to be excused. Every single time. Well, it looks like 90% of you, at least on YouTube, are on Team Chris Rock, as I think most people are. Chris Rock did nothing wrong. Now, I don't think I've kind of come around. I'm a little bit on Team Will's side, just a little bit. Not that I think that what he did was okay, although it was funny as shit, and it will never not be funny. And I think we should all, you know what? Here's what we should do. We should all thank Will Smith. This will never not be funny. And I said this before, and I'd say it again because I really do think there is a lesson in this for all of us. If Will Smith can slap someone live on the Academy Awards and bounce back from that and move on with his life and continue to be successful and continue to do whatever he wants to do, then any single one of us can come back from anything. There is comfort in that. Every single person can have a redemption arc. Every single person can act like a moron on Twitter, Kieran, and still have a redemption arc. That is something that we should all strive for. All right. Moving on. Moving on. Let's talk about the CDC. Now, I started screaming about 2 years, a little over 2 years ago now, when they started implementing masks everywhere. I said, "This is gonna lead to a massive mental health crisis. This is gonna lead to a massive mental health crisis." And because and I actually started reading articles about the mental health impacts of wearing masks, and of course, YouTube gave me a strike when I did that. YouTube didn't like the articles about the mental health implications of wearing masks. And now we see in the Washington Post, oh, look, I was right. Now, I was not the only one saying this, but this was an entirely predictable outcome. And I don't take any joy in this because we should not take joy in legitimate mental health problems at all. We shouldn't take joy in this. But this is going to be a big problem. It's going to be a big problem. Patrice says, is there any way I can fight that strike? No, the strike is gone. That strike was gone a while ago. No point in doing it now. Nothing to be gained from it. YouTube just won't respond. That's what they do. So, in the Washington Post, a cry for help, the CDC warns of a steep decline in teen mental health. More than 4 in 10 told the health agency they feel persistently sad or hopeless. This is a sad thing. I know this show is a little bit more of a lighthearted show where we have levity, but this is effed up. It is completely effed up that we are in this situation right now. And I'm going to go so far as to say, I'm sorry, YouTube. This was created by the CDC. This was created by the CDC and the teachers' unions and the Democrats. That's who I hold responsible. CDC, teachers' unions, Democrats. Let's be honest. All of those audiences are Democrats anyway. They're all Democrats. Everything woke turns to shit. It's just the way it goes. Let's read. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is warning of an accelerating mental health crisis among adolescents, with more than 4 in 10 teens reporting that they feel persistently sad or hopeless, and 1 in 5 saying they have contemplated self-harm, according to the results of the survey published on Thursday. This data echo a cry for help, says Deborah, a deputy director at the CDC. The COVID-19 pandemic has created traumatic stressors that have the potential to further erode students' mental well-being. Yes, when you take kids out of school and make them stay home and don't let them see their friends and make them wear something over their mouth, which is the thing they use to express ourselves, and our inclination to express ourselves is directly related to how we feel about ourselves. The more we express ourselves, the higher our self-esteem is going to be. If you're preventing them from expressing themselves by making them wear a mask over their mouth, that's going to inherently lower their self-esteem, and then you're not letting them see their friends, and you're not letting them go to school. You're leading to massive learning loss, the likes of which this country has never seen before in our entire history. That's going to lead to some problems. It was always going to lead to some problems. It was called out by a lot of people, and we were censored on YouTube for it. Wasn't that fun? The findings draw on a survey of a nationally representative sample of 7,700 teens conducted in the first 6 months of 2020, when they were in the midst of the first full pandemic school year. They were questioned on a range of topics, including their mental health, alcohol and drug use, and whether they had encountered violence at home or at school. They were also talked about whether they had encountered racism, because, of course, we can't just focus on mental health. We have to make everything fucking woke. Everything. Although young people were spared the brunt of the virus, falling ill and dying at a much lower rate than older people, they may still pay a steep price for the pandemic, having come of age while weathering isolation, uncertainty, economic turmoil, and for many, grief. In a news conference, Catherine, head of the CDC's Division of Adolescents and School Health, said the survey results underscore the vulnerability of certain students including the LGBTQ youth and students who are reported being treated unfairly because of their race, because everything has to be made woke. And female students are far worse off than their male peers. Everything has to be fucking woke. All students were impacted by this pandemic, but not all students were impacted equally. So we should just dismiss the impact on white, straight, cisgendered teen males. We should dismiss that. They're privileged enough already. We don't need to worry about their mental health. The only mental health concerns that we have are with trans, non-binary, black, I don't know, femmes or whatever. That's the only thing they worry about all the time. It's not the first time officials have warned of a mental health crisis among teens. In October, the American Academy of Pediatrics declared a national emergency in child and adolescent mental health, saying that its members were caring for people with soaring rates of depression, anxiety, trauma, loneliness, and suicidality that will have lasting impacts on them, their families, and their communities. Well, duh. In December, Surgeon General issued an advisory protecting youth mental health. The pandemic era's unfathomable number of deaths, pervasive sense of fear, economic instability, and forced physical distancing from loved ones, families, and communities have exacerbated the unprecedented stresses young people already faced. Duh. It would be a tragedy if we beat back one public health crisis, only to allow another to grow in its place. But grow the mental health crisis is, and I'm just gonna let you guys know they don't have an answer for this. The American Psychological Association is completely goddamn woke. Completely woke. The American Psychiatric Association is one of the main associations that lobbied for vaccine mandates. They lobbied the Biden administration for vaccine mandates. The major organizations that will treat any mental health crisis are not remotely prepared to treat anything. So this is going to get worse, and this is going to be a problem. And so what are we doing? Well, one school in San Francisco is saying, let's bring back masks. That'll solve everything. From the San Francisco Chronicle, a Bay Area elementary school has restored its mask mandate after reporting a sudden increase in COVID-19 cases. Since March 12th, Coleman Elementary School in San Rafael has confirmed 23 total 23. Oh my, 23 whole cases? 17 in students and 6 in employees. In response, the school informed families that it will be reinstating an indoor mask mandate through April 15th. Why not? Why not continue to double down on the insanity? Of course, check with the CDC for all your mask related information. I am not a doctor, I am but a simple psychologist. I don't know what I'm talking about. Don't listen to me. Only trust the CDC. The same CDC who just told you that we are experiencing a massive mental health crisis. These are the people you should trust, not me. I get strikes on YouTube for talking about this shit. Only listen to the CDC. Marin County schools aligned with state guidelines that allowed lifting indoor mask mandates on March 12th, though face coverings were still strongly recommended. This has not been a time for alarm, but for us to implement the recommended public health strategies to respond to an uptick in cases and decrease risk of transmission. How many other schools? Does anyone else live in an area where schools are bringing back mask mandates? It was funny, wasn't it? That so many schools across the country, in all sorts of different states, at the same time, just all gave up on their mask mandates when the polling told them to. Is anyone in an area that is bringing back mask mandates? I'm just honestly curious. We'll see. I'll be paying attention to the chat for that. But guys, you are watching Effed Up News for April 3rd, 2022. Mount that like button if you have not already. I stream live at 5 every day on this channel, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. On Friday, we go over to my second YouTube channel, Actively Unwoke. That's youtube.com/actively unwoke. And we do happy hour over there at 5. And on Saturdays, I rest. And on Sundays, I get up to do it all over again. Now, we have something special tomorrow. My unwoke army doesn't know this yet. We have something very deeply special tomorrow because in this past Friday's happy hour, we stumbled on some shit. It was an accident. Happy hour is usually a mockery of a stream. We watch a woke training and I drink beer and we laugh about it and we rip it to shreds and we have a grand old time. Sadly, on Friday's happy hour, we actually stumbled on legitimate bullshit going on in the most woke school district I have ever seen. And ever since then, about 24 people in my unwoke army who are people who are members of my locals community, we have all been working fast and furious around the clock, literally for the past couple of days, to figure out what is going on in this school district. This school district is grooming children live on the internet. I'm not making that up. And we're not talking high schoolers, we're talking middle schoolers. I have video of this school district of a 7th grader in this school district talking about how her guidance counselor helped her to come out when she was in the 5th grade. We have got videos of teachers pressuring students to admit their white privilege. We have got all sorts of crazy stuff. And the crazy videos we have is just the beginning because we also have discovered that they have built the entire school district budget on equity. I'm not making this up. They are allocating hundreds of thousands of dollars to schools based on equity. And we're working on a write-up for it right now. I will have an article up tomorrow on my Substack. And tomorrow's Live at 5 is going to be all about what is going on in this school. And for those of you who watched Happy Hour on Friday, but you have not been involved in the investigation since then, it is much more crazy than what we saw on Friday. I'm just going to tell you right now, and there are people who are working on this in the Unwoke Army in the chat. They can confirm the amount of shit that we are going to scratch the tip of the surface of the crazy shit that we're unearthing from this school district tomorrow. The reason I'm doing this tomorrow is I want this information out there. I want real journalists to actually start looking into it if they are inclined to do their job, which we know they're mostly not inclined to do. But at least we're going to get the information out there, and I'm going to show you how insane all of this is. This is mark my words, Burlington, Vermont is going to become the first city in America entirely built on equity. Because it's not even just the school district. The city's 5-year plan is filled with woke buzzword bullshit. They are literally building the city entirely on equity. It's insane. And tomorrow, we are going to talk about it. This is going to be Evergreen Part 2. Mark my words. This is going to be Evergreen Part 2. And we stumbled on it by accident on my happy hour stream. We always got to be ready when we're doing happy hour. Happy hour is just not about hanging out and having fun and drinking beer, okay? You got to be ready when you actually find something that matters. And on Friday, we found something that matters, and I have been very blessed to have a team of people around me working to uncover all of the documents that we need to uncover in the last couple days to make sure people know what's going on. So tune in tomorrow live at 5 on my channel, and we are going to talk about it. All right, moving on. I wanted to show you this thread from Wokal Distance. Wokal is one of the best follows on Twitter. He does extremely thoughtful threads, and this one I think is just really relevant to frankly that woke school district that we're going to talk about tomorrow, but also just to our times, to Disney in general. Let's read. The Hampton City School District in Virginia has passed a set of guidelines which say teachers can change a student's gender without telling the parents. Under these guidelines, teachers can help your kid change genders behind your back and never have to tell you. Guidelines for the treatment of transgender and gender nonconforming students. You can see Hampton City Schools here. We're not going to read the whole thing. There are no regulations requiring school staff to notify a parent or guardian of a student's request to affirm their gender identity. Notice they use the word affirm rather than the word change. Isn't that interesting? Therefore, it is to be understood that the division has no affirmative legal duty to inform parents of the student's gender identity choice acknowledged while the student is involved in HCS learning or activities. Isn't that nice? The excuse for this rule is, of course, safety. The woke think that not letting people, even 5-year-olds, change genders is harmful. Anything other than affirming a new gender is seen as abuse. So they decided to help students change genders behind the back of their parents. And he's got this part: in recognition of the right of the parent and guardian to make educational decisions and to otherwise direct the upbringing of their children, a parent or guardian has the right to be involved in the development of an individualized student support plan for the student as discussed below in subsections D and C, in bold and italic. If a student is not ready or able to safely share with their family about their transgendered status, this should be respected. Of course, they're going to come up with the definition of what safety actually means. This means a group of people who have bachelor's degrees in education and have zero training in psychology, biology, sociology, or any other discipline related to sex and gender are now allowed to help students change genders without telling the parents what's happening. You could see how they made this work. They think that to refuse to allow your 5-year-old to change his gender and to claim he is a girl is equivalent to physical or sexual abuse. They actually believe telling a boy he is not a girl is just like assaulting that boy. Now, I want to say, again, I actually don't have, just to make my position on this clear, I don't believe in medical transition of children. I don't believe in anyone, well, with rare exception, medically transitioning under 18. I have absolutely no problem with kids wearing their hair how they want to, or socially transitioning, or using a new name, or any of the things that they want. And in an ideal world, I do think that they should be able to discuss those things with their parents. And you know what? Kids are creative. Kids sometimes do things when they're kids that don't end up sticking when they're an adult. I have no issue with that at all. I do have an issue with schools hiding stuff from parents, though. I do have an issue with that. The reason that for this is that the woke think boy or girl are purely social rules enforced by society. Blah, blah, blah. The reason for this is that the woke think boy and girl are purely social roles enforced by social rules, not categories describing physical or biological reality. They think talking about a biological boy is just like talking about a biological mailman or a biological lawyer. Sean C., thank you for the super chat. This part I struggle with. I came out in high school but wasn't ready for my parents to know, conservative Christian parents, so I can kind of see what they're coming from. You know, Sean, I actually do agree with you on this. I actually do agree with you. I think that, people coming out should be able to come out in the way that feels most comfortable to them. And I completely understand that that might not always be in front of the parents. Where I start to have an issue is when A, schools are purposefully outing students and pressuring them to come out, because I don't think anyone should ever be pressured to come out. And what I've seen from schools is that they are definitely overtly pressuring students to come out, possibly before they're ready to do so. But also, when it comes to things not so much like coming out as like gay, but when it comes to trans stuff, putting students in therapy, that should absolutely be done with the knowledge of the parents. Or talking about getting students on hormones or any of these things. I mean, that's crazy. And we know that once you get on the trans slippery slope, those things happen very, very, very quickly. They shouldn't be happening that quickly. Major life choices should involve the parents, for better or for worse. They think anyone can occupy the social role of girl. For them, being a girl is just a role consisting of the behavior we typically ascribe to girls, being feminine, wearing dresses, wearing makeup, etc. And since a man with a penis can do those things, he can become a woman. I really want you to think about what Wokal is saying here because this is a matter of perspective. And I think that this is an important perspective to have, right? Which is not that we agree with it. This is not the same as agreeing. But if we're talking about understanding the mind of the woke, they genuinely believe, they genuinely believe that someone can just declare they are a girl and that biologically makes them a girl. That is real. That is a real belief. That is a real perception. Like, really wrap your head around that. To them, that is as real as this ball of yarn. It's as real as these tarot cards. It's as real as this cup of coffee. It is a real thing to them. It is they that is how they view the world. And again, I'm not suggesting that you need to agree with them, but understanding that perspective is important. Sean C., thank you for the super chat. Oh, I agree with that. Schools shouldn't be making medical or psychological decisions for students. It's such a weird balance that has to be done, and they don't envy those who have to make it. And you know what's really sad to me is the woke have made this balance harder. They've made it harder by doing all this crazy stuff. Moving on. So when your 5-year-old boy wants to become a girl and you tell him no, they see this as forcing your child to adopt and identify that he doesn't want that he doesn't want. The woke see that as a form of child abuse, every bit as severe as beating a child. So when parents stop kids from changing genders, that is seen as the parents doing harm to the child, and on the basis the teachers have decided to help the 5-year-old change their gender behind the back of their parents. This is why we need to be so careful with definitions. Every time you see something about safety when it comes to schools, every time you see something about harm when it comes to schools, what does that mean? This is incredibly important for every parent with children in definitely the public schools, but also the private schools, any type of school. You have to make sure that you understand the definitions that they're using, because when they say safety, they're probably not meaning the same thing you mean when you say safety. When they say harm, they're probably not meaning the same thing you mean when you say harm. It is important to get their definitions and to hold their feet to the fire with those definitions. Otherwise, it's going to turn into words are violence and then silence is violence. And if we don't do this, that, and the other thing, we are causing harm to people when we might just be disagreeing with them or telling them no. Words are not violence. Email is not violence. Tweets are not violence. Telling someone no isn't violence. Unless you're in the land of the woke. And then it's a whole new thing. I want you to ponder the consequences of this. Woke teachers have decided that parents do not have the final say over what their kids learn about sex and gender. They have decided to put themselves between children and parents and then tell the kids that they, the teachers, can be trusted more than the parents. Armed with a bachelor's degree in education, some YouTube videos, a few TikToks, and a 2-hour seminar they attended on trans rights, woke teachers have decided they are qualified to help 5-year-olds make potentially life-changing decisions behind their parents' backs. Finally, 2 points. If you have not become involved in your local school board, the time to start is now. This is why Florida banned teaching of gender for grades K through 3. Stop letting the media lie to you, stop listening to them, and start getting involved. The woke teachers have made up their minds. The time for persuasion has ended. Now is the time for activism. I 100% agree with Wokal there. 100% agree. That's why I wrote this book, Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against woke insanity in your life. Actively Unwoke breaks down the woke ideology in plain English. It gives you actionable strategies that everyone can use. It gives you case studies of real people just like you who have fought back. It has a whole chapter on what to do to be canceled. It has a whole chapter on what to do for self-care and stress management. We need to start speaking up. We need to start fighting back. That is why I wrote this book, to inspire people to do those things. And that's why tomorrow we're going to be talking about the most woke school district in the country grooming middle school children live on the internet for the entire world to see, putting it up on their YouTube channel, bragging about it on their Twitter, putting it on their school website. We have all their documents. We have all their videos. We're going to be showing you just a smidgen tomorrow because we've only been working on this for 2 days and there are decades to go through. And, we're doing the best we can, but we'll give you the intro to it tomorrow, live at 5 on this channel. But, with that thread that we just read, you might think it would be a shame. It would be such a shame if LGBTQ educators left the profession. Now, listen. Not all gay, okay. Most gay people don't buy into this bullshit. Let's just set that as a baseline. Most gay people, gay men and lesbians, do not buy into this bullshit. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the activists. Which, of course, in this article on NBC News, they're going to make it seem like LGBTQ educators / activists are representative of all gay people. They're not in any way. But that's who we're talking about here. We're not talking about educators. We're talking about LGBTQ activists who are now saying, I simply cannot teach in Florida. Too bad, so sad. Get the F out. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Oh, there we go. Last month, a group of parents in Orlando demanded consequences against 6th grade science teacher Robert. His crime? He acknowledged his marriage at school. He married a man. This alone is not the issue. Sharing the details with all of his 6th grade students is the issue. Now, I will say this. I don't know the circumstances of this, but this is where conservatives shoot themselves in the foot. If all this guy did was mention his marriage and conservative parents lost their shit, they're doing more harm than good. I have trouble believing that's what actually happened, but I will acknowledge that if that's all that happened, then conservative parents are in the wrong on this one. But let's see. It was not appropriate. Many of these students felt very uncomfortable with the conversations and shared this with their families. Okay, I want to know what they were. Had Tholander just said he would be out for a few days because he was getting married, no problem. The letter continued, but to discuss the details and to create an uncomfortable situation for students with no benefit to teaching his subject matter is inappropriate. Tholander denied having discussed his marriage since he and his husband tied the knot in March of last year, aside from acknowledging it when he was asked. No action was taken against him by school leaders who defended him several days later with a letter of their own. Nonetheless, the incident prompted Tholander to make this school year his last after 11 years of working in Florida as a teacher. Okay, now I'm absolutely sure. I am absolutely sure that it was not just this thing. I am positive of that. I would like to see the full letter. I want to know what he said. A lot of trust is given to teachers, and it made it seem like I wasn't trusted because there's something wrong with me for being gay. It makes it seem like being gay is something vile or disturbing or disgusting when it's described as making children uncomfortable knowing that I'm married to a man. It hurt. Well, again, if all it was him acknowledging that he's married to a dude, I don't think that breaks the law, and I don't actually think most people care. Yeah, Sean, I agree with you. Sean says, sadly, there are conservatives who do believe that merely acknowledging a same-sex relationship is akin to promoting it. And again, if this is what happened, if legitimately all this guy did was say, I'm married to a dude, and then conservative parents flipped their shit, they do more harm than good. They do more harm than good. But what I suspect happened is, I don't know. It seems as though it's more about Florida and what's going on than anything else, but I could be wrong. While the Orlando parent did not succeed in having Tholander disciplined or ousted, he and other LGBTQ teachers in the state worry that the newly signed state law titled Parents' Rights in Education, but dubbed by critics as the Don't Say Gay law, will galvanize parents to take similar action against them. The law bans blah, blah, blah. We know that. Legal experts have said the broad language of the law could open districts and teachers to lawsuits from parents who believe that any conversation about LGBTQ people or issues is inappropriate. Nicolette Solomon, 28, taught fourth grade in Miami-Dade County for more than 4 years. As HB 1557 passed through the legislature, she quit. Well, listen, again, if a single law is what gets you to quit your job, maybe it just wasn't for you. Maybe it just wasn't for you. Solomon, a lesbian, said that after months of having taught virtually through the coronavirus pandemic, the law was the straw that broke the camel's back. The law would erase me as an LGBTQ teacher. No one would be able to know, which then puts me in the closet and I'm there 7 hours a day, if not more, 5 days a week. I wouldn't be able to be who I am. Well, that's not true. This is an activist. This is what I'm talking about. This is an activist. Why do your students need to know about your sex life? Why? And I don't think I can bear to see the students struggle and want to ask me about these things and then have to deny them that knowledge. That's not who I am as a teacher. Okay, show of hands. How many of you actually knew about the personal lives of your teachers in elementary school? I sure as hell didn't. I didn't care. I was a child. I did not care. It was none of my business. I didn't know about the personal lives of my teachers in middle school. I didn't know about the personal lives of my teachers in high school. And I lived in one of those small towns where everyone knew everything about everyone else. I very rarely even saw my teachers outside of school. No one, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Nope. 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 I didn't even know my teacher's first name. I didn't even know my high school teachers' lives. No one cares about your personal life, teachers. Some Florida teachers also worry that the law will worsen the disproportionate rates of bullying and harassment and mental health issues plaguing their LGBTQ students. Will other students interpret this as, hey, now I have a pass to bully or mistreat certain students? It's not out of the realm. How do students even know? Okay, follow-up question. When you were in junior high, did you know what laws were being passed at your state house? I mean, I'm not talking about like current events, like something you might learn in like a current events like lesson. I'm talking about, did you have general discussion about the laws being passed? Because I didn't. I was in high school when Vermont was passing civil unions, and I barely even heard about that, and that was a big fucking deal. No, like no one follows this stuff. If students know about this, it is because adults have told them about it, and adults are telling them what to do with it. This teacher asks his students for their preferred pronouns at the beginning of every year. He also places other LGBTQ affirming symbols in his classroom, including a rainbow pride flag and a sign that says safe space. Our students need to see that educators in their community are as diverse as the rest of the community. I was watching, by the way, I was watching a video from this crazy woke school earlier today, and I don't know if this is going to be included tomorrow or not. I have to figure this out. I actually saw a 7th grade student who uses the pronouns they, them, talk about how they feel more comfortable talking to queer teachers. And they learned all this in social justice club at the school. The people they feel most comfortable with are the people that they're friends with in the social justice club that the school hosts on Tuesdays and sometimes on Thursdays. Not making that up. 7th grader, live on the internet, talking about this. True story. The world has gone mad. But schools aren't the only place we're talking about gender. When sir and ma'am miss the mark, restaurants rethink gender's role in service. A dinner out can be discomforting for non-binary and trans people, but efforts are afoot to change that. As oh god, I have no idea how to pronounce this person's name. Oval stood outside a restaurant. Here deciding whether to go in, the host extended a friendly greeting. Hello, sir. But the phrase didn't feel all that welcoming to Oval 27, who identifies as non binary and uses the pronouns they, them. Oval has an androgynous appearance, and as they asked for a menu, they could see that the wheels turning in the hostess's head, registering the pitch of their voice and noticing details like their eyeliner and painted nails. The hostess quickly retreated, calling them ma'am. It's just funny that they sort of resort to flipping it, said Oval, a machine learner researcher. The assumption that is that gender is binary. It's like, oh, wait, not sir, ma'am. It points to the need to have more ways of addressing people in a gender neutral way. People with gender identities that differ from the sex they were assigned at birth, including transgender and non binary people, known as gender expansive, have long faced discrimination and violence. In the restaurant business, they have been harassed and kitchens refuse service or forbidden to choose which restroom to use. Compared with barriers like these, the misgendering of guests by restaurant hosts or servers may seem like a small thing, but those on the receiving end say it can be painful or even dangerous if they are publicly outed. And there we get into definitions. You know how I said earlier? If you've got kids in school, you've got to make sure you know what the definition of safety is. You've got to make sure you know what the definition of harm is. Now we have to come to an understanding of what the definition of the word dangerous is. Because in this context, dangerous seems to mean I'm having feelings about the situation. That's what it seems to mean to me. And as recognition increases of gender expansive people, on Thursday, they will be celebrated around the world as Transgender Day of Visibility. Some restaurateurs, organizations in the United States are pushing for ways to make these diners and employees feel more welcome. In Los Angeles, the chef Sarah Kramer has been working on redefining restaurant etiquette since she and Sarah Hymanson opened Kismet in 2017. She has seen diners recoil from a greeting like, "Hello, ladies." At Kismet and Kismet Rotisserie, every staff member is trained to use gender neutral language, such as, "Hey, folks," or "Hey, everyone," when greeting guests, and they use gender neutral they and them when a customer's pronouns aren't known. Such protocols are part of the restaurant's training handbook and are regularly discussed during staff meetings. Okay, so this can be a warning sign. You know you're in a woke restaurant if they refer to you as folks or don't use a gendered term. And you know what you should do when that happens? Use gendered terms right back at them just to see what they do. Play with the situation. Have a little bit of fun. It's simply just a small amount of training to make sure that your staff members understand the importance of not making any assumptions about someone's identity and defaulting to they, them, and or asking point blank somehow someone would like to be referred to. So I think it's not a huge burden. Gender stereotypes are built into traditional restaurant service. Chairs are often pulled out for arriving women, who are then served first. Many restaurants have abandoned such practices, but in Europe, this type of old guard service is still common. Some restaurants may be reluctant to change deep seated practices or retrain employees, particularly while they struggle with the challenges of the pandemic and the difficulty of finding workers. Yes, we all have priorities in life. Yasmin, who identifies as a butch lesbian and has worked at restaurants in Brooklyn and Poughkeepsie, New York, said she's for all gender awareness training, but thinks the idea will be adopted only by owners whose viewpoints align with the idea. Smart, yes. I think it's a little bit narrow to think that there is a way to address it. Like, just do this thing or start including pronouns when you hire people. It'll get better. So, guys, oh, there we go. Oh. Well, I guess they have pretty hair. Let's see. The Panera bread. Oh, what is this thing with Panera? I love Panera bread. I do. They have the best soup. The Panera Bread restaurant chain has promoted inclusion among its workforce. It uses gender neutral language in training and materials, and its internal employee portal allows separate designations for legal gender and gender identity, a spokesperson said, but the company hasn't trained its staff to use gender neutral language with customers. Fun times. Oh, the photos are always interesting, aren't they? No shade at anyone. All right, so just know if you're going out to eat, don't be surprised to be referred to by they them. It's the way it goes. It's the new way of the world. Yeah, Panera Bread is good. Legit. All right, guys. Well, I do always like to end on something happy, and I just got a big kick out of this story. Bartender quits after his boss bans him from getting drunk on his day off. And the reason that I love this story is that this bartender knew his value. This bartender wasn't taking any grief. This bartender was going to use his day off and he was going to enjoy it and he wasn't going to let any boss get in his way. And I love this type of self-confidence. I love people who are so self-confident enough that they know if they get fired from a job today or they walk out because your boss is being a dick, that you're going to be able to go and get another job, which is almost always the case, by the way. If you get fired from a job or you quit your job, you can always find another job. If you get out there and you hustle, you can always find another job. It may not be the ideal job. It may not be the job you have forever, but you can always find another job, and you should never be upset about getting fired or losing your job because everything happens for a reason. It wasn't the place you wanted to be anyway. You always know it's not the place you want to be. I know getting fired can be a little jarring. It's happened to me a couple times. But it was always for the better. And I've coached multiple people, many, 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 probably over 100 people after losing their job. And it always turns out for the better as long as they get out there and hustle. Jenny's getting inky with it, says they, them, till they are sued for fat shaming. Oh my God, Jenny, you're not wrong there. All right, let's read. Oh God. A bartender who quit his job after his boss banned him from getting drunk on his day off has shared the savage texts online. Taking to Reddit, the disgruntled barman shared the text exchange he had with his employer, who asked him to come to work at 3 a.m. The bar owner's message asked his employee to come in the following day for an 11-hour shift starting at 11 a.m. and ending at 10 p.m. Understandably, the man replies, politely declining the offer and explaining that it's his day off. However, less than impressed, the boss refuses to take no for an answer, instead telling the barman he needs to be a team player. He responds, "Why are you just telling me? Hang on, let's just look at the text, shall we? Let's just look right at the text." So we got this one here. Can I click on these? Will it make them big? Oh, that's perfect. Perfect. So this is the boss. "I need you to come in from 11 to 10 p.m. today. We have an event scheduled and only one bartender." And this is at 3 a.m. Remember, this is at 3 fucking a.m. And the guy responds, "No, thank you. Tomorrow is my day off." And the boss says, "You need to be a team player. It isn't all about you. Please come in tomorrow." And the employee responds, "Why are you just now telling me at 3 a.m. that you need me to work 11 hours tomorrow? I've had a few drinks and I don't feel like coming into work hungover and working for that long on my day off." And then the boss says, "You need to stay ready for work. Getting too drunk is not a good look. If you can't stay prepared, and sometimes things happen and we need to cover for each other." That would have been my breaking point too. Like, F off. The employee responds, "You're telling the bartender to not drink on his time off. Want to go tell the chefs to not eat off the clock too? Dude, if you had given me more notice, I would have considered it and just had not any drinks so I wouldn't have to work that long hungover. But you waited too long. I'm already drunk and I don't feel like coming in tomorrow and working 11 hours while hungover. Don't you know how to bartend too? Even if you don't, we literally have flashcards for each drink on the menu for each event. You can literally just tape them to the counter and use them as your guide and make the drinks yourself. This guy is a fucking hero. Fucking hero. But it doesn't stop there. Doesn't stop there. Boss responds, "We are going to talk about this attitude when you come in Sunday." And the bartender responds, "No, we're not. Bartenders are needed all over the place now, and I think I'll go work at one of those dozens of places hiring around here. I'm fed up with you." And then the boss says, "Give me a call. Don't make such an impulsive decision. You're making a mistake because you're drunk and you think it's a good idea. When you wake up tomorrow, you're going to regret this." And this isn't shown in the text message, but it seems the bartender's decision is final, and he responded with, "Eat my ass." That's how you quit a job. That is how you do it right there. Always know your worth. Never take any shit from the boss, especially if it's a pattern of behavior. If it's like a one off, you can kind of forgive that. But if your boss is texting you at 3 a.m. telling you you're not allowed to do things on your days off, F him, go get another job, know your value, know your worth, go work for someone who will respect you. All right, guys, that is all we have for Effed Up News of the week for today. Once again, I will be live tomorrow at 5 p.m. on this channel on YouTube and Odyssey and Rockfin and Rumble and even on Gitter. And we are going to be talking about the most woke school district in the country that is grooming children, middle schoolers, 12-year-olds, live on the internet. And they're pretty proud of it too. And I'm going to show you exactly what they're doing. I'm going to show you why they're doing it. And I'm going to show you why we should all be paying attention to Burlington, Vermont, because it's going to be the next evergreen, but it's going to be an evergreen on a citywide level. No joke. Serious business. We're going to do that tomorrow at 5 p.m. So make sure you mount that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. Do all that good stuff. And of course, please make sure you join me in my Locals community. Locals is the best place on the internet. It is the most sane place on the internet. We do community Zoom calls twice a week. We have a community Zoom call tomorrow at 7 p.m. We do fun activities like the Unwoke Army, where we take down woke school districts and expose the bullshit that they're doing. We have great conversation with great company. You can come join us for $5 a month. You can join us for $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can also make a one-time gift that gets you access to all the features in Locals, and you'll be supporting the work I do in the meantime. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.